Good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sitecore User Group India. Today we have Mariela Punch with us. She has 18 years of experience in IT industry, and currently she is working as a backend developer at Ocean. Uh, our today's topic is GraphQL fundamentals in Sitecore. So Mariela will talk about how GraphQL has been integrated with Sitecore and the steps required to configure it. And she will also show how to build the queries using GraphQL UI regarding to items and search engines. And finally, she will also cover how to integrate GraphQL on a Sitecore project, taking an example of the Sitecore MVP website. Yeah. So if you have any questions during the session, please add it to the chat window. We will have a separate Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So Mariela, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Khushbu. Thank you, everyone, to attend this session. It is a pleasure for me to be in this group and share this interesting topic. Okay, we can start as Khushbu already mentioned. I am a software developer for almost 20 years. My background basically is Microsoft because I have programmed in C# in some systems and websites regarding some areas like commercial, banking, inspections, okay? I am currently working at Ocean for the latest 6 years. Ocean, it is a US company that worked with Sitecore and websites. I have the opportunity to implement some projects with Sitecore from the version 8 to 10. And it was a nice experience for me to know Sitecore during these years. And also I am Sitecore certified in the latest version, that is 10. And additionally, I am studying something in DevOps because I think that is required for the professional growth to continue studying in some areas that appears in our field, that is technology. And as this area it appears and means all of the related to the cloud computing, all the related to the automating and operation. It is important for me to continue growing in my career and as a professional. Okay. As Khushbu already mentioned, we will through with some topics in this presentation. We will see what was the origin of this project that is GraphQL, and after that we analyze what is the purpose of a schema in this project, how this integrated GraphQL in Sitecore, what is needed in terms of the configuration to get this language or this service running in Sitecore. We are going to execute some queries on some environments, 2 environments that I prepared for you. And finally, we are going to see a real case that is the MVP project that uses this service that is GraphQL. Okay. First of all, what was the origin of GraphQL and what was the initial need? Okay, Facebook created this project in 2012. Okay, because they have a specific project for their website, and the problem was that the front end and back end consume a lot of time to implement data that, in this case, front end and the application needed. Okay, and for that reason, GraphQL came up with the idea that front end had the possibility to define the shape of the data, and not in the other way that backend provided the data. Okay, it is like a change of concept. Okay, and as I mentioned, GraphQL appeared or came up with that need. Okay. What is the advantage of having GraphQL in GraphQL at that point? Okay, or in general, try to minimize the consecutive execution calls that we have with REST. Okay. If we see in my example in the screen, we can see that we have the query in GraphQL. It is a basic query that it says, retrieve a resource, that is me, with a field name and the list of posts. Okay. If we need to execute the same query using REST, probably we will need to implement two endpoints. One of them for retrieve the user and the user data, and the other for the post. Okay, you see that using GraphQL, it is more transparent, straightforward to define the data that, in this case, the front end needs to retrieve. Okay. Finally, I would say that GraphQL, it is not a library. It is not a framework. It is only just like a language, a query language to define the data that we need to retrieve, or the search that we need to execute. Okay, it is widely used nowadays because there are some implementations around some technologies. For example, Ruby, PHP, Python are using GraphQL. Okay. Well, what is the schema for GraphQL? GraphQL, I mentioned before that front end had the possibility to define the shape of the data, but it is not that open as I mentioned, because it's required to have a convention, a structure that is, in this case, the schema. Okay, defines the type of on the types on a query. Okay, how the data can be retrieved, what are the fields that, in this case, front end can consume. Okay, this is like an agreement, because we have the query here. For this query, you see that we have the schema. That it says, yeah, you can retrieve a resource, that it is user, that is composed by two fields. One of them, it is the ID, and the other one, it is the name. Okay, it is defining the data type for this schema. Okay, and also we have we cannot see in this simple example, but we have the possibility to verify what is the data that we are going to retrieve. If this is if we have the possibility to retrieve a list or a single item. Okay. Okay. the different mutations that we have to retrieve the data. For example, all the users or the users by ID. Okay, if we as a front end or as a developer, we include a field that it is not defined in the schema, as it is indicated in this example, because it is included the location. Okay, this will throw an exception. Okay, that is the idea. How GraphQL is integrated in Sitecore? Okay, we have a nice graph there, because it says that GraphQL it is considered a service. Okay, we have the layer here that is basically exposed by APIs, and in this case we have this specific service that is GraphQL. Okay, it says like it is located, or it is a generic service that is in the top of the Sitecore. Okay, because we have this infrastructure now, or platform, as you know, that we have XP, for example, or XM, and those platforms consume the services that are above of this. And it is interesting also this image, because we have the service that .NET Core rendering SDK that as you know appeared in the latest version, that is 10. Okay, and works with the headless services as headless services, and as you see uses these components. Okay, the first fourth, and in the other side we have the classical GSS. Okay, that is the JavaScript rendering SDK. Okay, that uses all of these components. Okay, it is wider than the other one. Okay, that is the idea. Also, I can mention that appeared in 2018 with GSS. Okay, you know that GSS is older than the other framework that Sitecore provides us. Okay, and also finally, I want to comment you that XM uses also this service to expose the data. Okay, and it is important because we know that in the future we are going to use more XM and the headless paradigm. And for that reason, I think that GraphQL is going to be used to extract the data and expose the data to be consumed in different ways. Okay, as Sitecore mentioned, it's going to be consumed by any kind of technology. Okay, and that is the idea. Okay. Next, we will through on the configuration that is required to for GraphQL in Sitecore. Okay, what I did is I prepared a clean environment XP clean environment, and I ran, or I executed all of the process that I included in these slides. Okay, the first thing that we have to do is install the Sitecore JavaScript service server. You see in this part, and the first image, it is only the action it is required to import as a package, okay, and nothing else from the CMS, okay. Once you install this package, in the CMS, it is going to be created a new folder, config folder, that it says service GraphQL. Okay, that contains the configs, and also with this installation, some DLLs were created. Okay, let me show you a little bit the environment. Okay, for you. Okay, I hope that you can see. This is the environment that I prepared for you. I have another environment that I will show you later, that is the MVP site. But for the moment, in order to validate that this environment was, was configured according to the steps that I mentioned. Okay, I imported this specific package, if you see, and also if we inspect the config that is located in Sitecore services, okay, you can see that we have all of these configs. Okay, okay, let me see. Okay, what else we can do? We can, in terms of the configuration, we have to create the config file for our needs. Okay, as in the installation, as I show you, we have some examples inside of the config folder. I renamed the example that that was provided. It is the Sitecore service GraphQL content master config. I renamed because initially it was with the example extension. Okay. And also what it is required, because at that point, if you try to use the GraphQL UI, okay, it is not possible. We have an error saying that it is not authenticated. And we have to finally to include in this config file that is Sitecore Awin authentication, the endpoint. Okay, what it is the endpoint? That is an interesting question. Okay, the endpoint, it is included in the config file. Okay, the endpoint, it says no, it is the URL that is going to be accessed by Sitecore in Sitecore, and okay, and what is the data that is going to be exposed? In this case, we have this endpoint, and we are going to consume query the data that is in master. Okay, that is the example that Sitecore give us with this specific config. Okay, and for authentication, we have to include this path inside of the Awin. Okay, in Awin, we need to include or add this line to allow this specific path. Okay, once we have that configuration, we can access to the GraphQL UI. Okay, it is required that you are logged in the CMS. Okay, because otherwise you are going to have an error. And what is the URL that you have to access is the same that you indicated in the config /UI. Okay, and it is going to appear this nice utility to try to test the queries. Okay, this UI, it is also based on the schema that Sitecore provide us inside of GraphQL, because Sitecore already defined the schema, and it says like we can't search for for data that is defined in the schema, okay? It is nice because we can't, we have the intelligence that help us to create a query on the fields that is inside, okay, of the, for example, what files or fields, sorry, are exposed for the specific items and so on, okay? Okay, let me go through the, okay. At this point, first of all, before we can do the first demo, okay, I need to explain you that in Sitecore we have queries, mutations, and subscriptions. Queries, it is the name express all of the purpose. It is mostly the mostly used type, common, yeah. We have also the query is only in read mode, okay? We can't retrieve the data and nothing else. The mutation, the idea is try to write data on the CMS. I mean, with mutations, we can, for example, create, update, and delete items, okay? And subscription, according to the documentation, it is like a, an event that arrives in real time, okay? Okay, let me again to show you, okay? As I mentioned, it is only an example that try to retrieve the data from this path in content, okay, and retrieve these fields. That is the idea path, okay. Let me, okay. The children with a field that it is name, and the template also with the fields, okay. If you see the response in that part, it was retrieved the all of the fields that we defined in the query, okay. Yeah, for my for this demo, only what I did is only I upload some content, okay, to try to execute the queries. Only that was the purpose, and for that reason, you see that inside of the content we have some data. Okay, what we can do now, it is run another script to create an item. Okay, I am going to go to the UI. What is the idea of this is try to create an item, okay, that is with this specific template under this parent with these specific fields, okay, and nothing else, okay. That is the idea, okay. It says like a created item. If we go to the content, okay, let me go to the content editor, and we will see that under the MVP site, because only I restored some content to for query purpose, and you see that under the home we have the demo item, okay. In the demo item we have only this field that is menu title, okay. If we need to update the item, also I have a script there that we can't update the field that I mentioned, and that is the menu title, and I am going to update with this specific string and nothing else. If we can't return, go back and see what happened, we can see the change. Let me see. Okay, it is updated. Okay, and finally we can't delete an item. If we can return to the to the graph UI. Okay, it says like it was deleted. Okay, if we refresh that, okay, it was gone. Okay, that is the basic for GraphQL. Okay, let me continue with my presentation. Okay, yeah, okay. We will move forward to another project that I mentioned that is a real project, that is the MVP. Okay. In MVP, we don't have only the query. Yeah, we have other things that I am going to mention to you because it corresponds to a real case. Okay. For example, yeah, what it is required to run the MVP site. Okay, I have in this part running the MVP locally. Okay, let me show you. Okay, and this site runs with a Docker. Okay, I have the I already up the site using Docker. Okay, and the idea is, and this site uses also the GraphQL to search the MVP people. Okay, this search is executed using GraphQL, and we have also the GraphQL UI, as I show you previously in my demo clean Sitecore thing environment. Okay, this environment, it is a real one, and we have the query that we executed. We execute in this specific site that is a Sitecore MVP. Okay, you see that this has a big query, okay, and uses some things that is important that you know. Okay, for example, you define a query. Okay, you defined like a query operation name that is MVP search, and you have in this part variables. Okay, this concept of a variable, it is important because in the application, it is required to pass the values. Okay, and for that reason, in the query is defining the variables. Okay, in the UI, we see that we have an area at the bottom, the query variables. Okay, that corresponds to the same that is indicated in the query. Okay, if you define it, for example, the root item, you in this utility, you can't set a specific value for that specific variable, for that specific entry, and you can test on that way. Okay, in the code in Sitecore MVP Visual Studio that we are going to I am going to show you in a little bit. Also, we have the data, okay, but we sent this data based on the application that is running and something like that. Okay. As I mentioned to you, the first part, it is built, as indicated that this is a query, okay, the name of the query and the variables, okay? And variables means dynamic values, okay, passed to the query, okay? We have, according to the documentation that it is in GraphQL.org, we have several data types, okay? As you see, we have the string, we have this, let me zoom this part. We have this exclamation mark. That means that it is not allowed a nullable value, okay? Okay, that is important. All of these conventions are indicated in the GraphQL org site, okay? And what else we see inside of the query, okay? This is a specific query because this connects, or this uses the indexes, the search indexes that Sitecore has, okay? For example, in the classical or the traditional applications, we use Solar, and Solar works with the indexes. In this case, GraphQL also uses the indexes, okay? And for that reason, it says like this specific part that is search allows us to query the content search indexes, okay? And it is defined, as you see, some properties here inside of the schema to determine or define the root item, or for example, the fields that we have to match on the query, the language, the page size, okay? It is very similar that we usually do on Solar, okay? And after that, we defined what is the results that we are interested to retrieve from this query, okay? We have the items, we have the fields that we have the first name, last name, okay? Let me go to my presentation again, because in this part, as I mentioned, we have the query, and in this part we have the search, okay, that I mentioned to you, that works with the content search indexes, okay? According the schema, we have the some properties already defined, and we can use those properties to build the query that is going to be executed. And in the result, we have it is linked to the template, okay? Because it says like I need to that you return me the data based on this template that for our example it is person, okay? That is located in foundation person, foundation people, sorry. And we mapped the fields that we defined on the template inside of the query, okay? If you see in my screen, in the inside of the template, I have the first name, last name, email, okay? All of these fields, I need to map to the query, okay? In a specific format, as you see in this part. That is the idea. Okay, and we have an interesting part on this specific query that MVP provide us, okay? Because if we inspect the result, also we see some fields that are not defined in the template. And these kind of fields are custom ones. Okay, what I try to include in this slide, it is in the query we have, for example, the MVP category, okay, that in the code we have the possibility to create create the code, okay, to extend the schema and provide the data, or implement the code to retrieve the data, okay, the data. It is interesting, as you see, MVP defined it using this this specific code, okay, and this specific function to get the MVP year. And in terms of the configuration, it is required to add these lines saying that we are going to extend the schema in this case with these specific fields. Okay. Okay. What else? The last thing that I am going to mention to you is MVP site, to the ones that we have the opportunity to work on the hackathon. Okay, we already checked that code and see what was the platform that they use. Actually, they use the SP.NET SDK. Okay, and the renderings, for example, is the GSS renderings. Okay, and how the project connects to the GraphQL to execute the query and present in the view. Okay. First of all, in this specific project that is MVP, we have the JSON rendering. Okay. In content, we have something that is called an MVP search component. As I mentioned, it is a JSON rendering. Okay, this view component, okay, calls in the second step, we can see that calls something that is in a class that is a GraphQL people list view component. Okay, we have this entry point, and inside of the project, we have the specific service that is GraphQL people service class. With a specific method that is search, and they use, or the project used a library, a Nugget library that is GraphQL client. Okay, inside of the project, we see that we have the current version that is 3.16. Okay, okay. That is the idea of this part. Okay, if we can see the project. Okay, as I mentioned to you, we have the entry point here that it is the view model, view component. Okay, and in this part, we build the query, try to get the parameters and try to build or to prepare the data for the query. Okay, and after that we have this specific service that is called. Okay, I am going to go to this one. Okay, that is the search. Okay, search calls this one. And we see that the response comes from another class that is GraphQL provider. Okay, if we inspect that, go to definition. Okay, we see that we define a client. As I mentioned in my slide, this corresponds to a library that is included in the project. Okay. The library, it is indicated in, let me see. Okay. Okay, we have this specific that is the GraphQL client. Okay, and we can execute the query using that library. Okay, that is the idea. Okay, let me return to my presentation. Okay, and nothing else from my side. I included in this presentation the bibliography. I will share this presentation for you. Okay, if you can't go deep on the topics, you can do or review the information. Okay. I don't know if we can go through the questions, and maybe we can go to a specific topic that maybe it was not very clear for you. Just tell me, and we can recap that specific topic. Okay. Okay, let me see. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, as of now, there is no question in the chat window, but I would request everyone, if you have any question, you can post it in the chat window.
Okay. In the meantime, until someone can post something, I can comment you that I was my interest to see this real project working with GraphQL motivate me to change a little bit the MVP site, okay? And in my local, and also I push those changes in my GitHub code. I did a small change on the application, including the social media link, okay? In the current website, I mean the production one, we don't have this specific field that is what is the preferred social media link for each MVP person, okay? And I was working on that a small change, and for that reason, I relied, okay, I relied on the code that execute the logic related to GraphQL, because it was required to execute a query, execute the new field that I added in the CMS, okay, for this purpose. And it was a nice experience. Also, I wrote a blog with the steps that I followed to include this new field that I mentioned to you. It was like an exercise to see how GraphQL worked, okay, in this specific project. And I have the possibility today to share with you what I learned with this specific project, with this specific example, okay? Only that, Kushbu.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't see any question in the chat window yet. Um, okay, I think if you guys have any question later, you can reach out to us on Sitecore Slack or on Twitter. We can connect with you and try to answer your questions. There is one.
Someone says like a multilingual support, okay? What I see in queries is that you can't include the language, okay, as a field, okay, because if we go through the example that I show you, okay, let me open again. Okay, is this one? Okay, we have as a parameter, we have the language, okay? Mainly because, as you know, in the site, we have the possibility to change the language, okay? And based on the language that is selected on the site, we have to execute the query, okay? And that is only an example how MVP site manage the language, okay? Okay, but we can't, we can go deeper on this specific topic. Another question, it says, did you run into any complex query limit? Okay. Not really, because in my local, okay, I don't have much data in my local, what I try to do is try to create an example data and try to execute based on the examples that in this case the code provide me. And also I executed some queries that I retrieved from the from internet. Okay, but in my case, as I don't have much data inside of the CMS, I don't see performance, or I don't see major difficulties. But as this topic at this specific session, it is only for fundamentals, okay? I didn't show you, okay? I didn't show you a complex query that for sure for GraphQL we can have, okay? GraphQL, as I mentioned, it is an standard that has the website with all of the conventions, and we have the possibility to run in a complex ones, okay? Okay. The other question is how Sitecore personalization will work with GraphQL. Okay, I don't have an answer for you, sorry. What I try to indicate in this session or show you in this session, it is basically how GraphQL is connected to the content, okay? But for my research, I haven't seen something related with personalization. Maybe you that have more experience than me in this topic who have a better idea, but in my research, in my in the queries that I show you, okay, the purpose was only to provide you the way how you can retrieve and execute, okay, and understand basically how to execute the query for the content, okay? It is a good catch. It is a good topic that we can go deeper, but I don't have, sorry for that, but I don't have the answer for you, for your question, sorry. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I hope that this, although that it is a basic, it is like a go through the basis of the GraphQL. I hope that this would be helpful for you and for your purpose. And maybe if you don't have experience on this topic, open your mind and motivate to you to go deeper in this topic. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your for attend this meeting and be with me in this meeting with us.
Yeah, so thank you, Mariela. And definitely it was a good session, though it was just a basic fundamental of GraphQL, but this is the starting point for us. So we could learn from this and see what are the other possibilities with GraphQL. So definitely it was a good session, and thank you everyone for joining us. See you in the next session of Sitecore User Group India. Thank you everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariela.